When we think of God as the creator of all things, from the first burst of light energy in Genesis chapter 1 to the creation of humanity as its crowning glory, which is what the text was that we heard this morning, it makes me think about what it means to have dominion over other parts of nature. Dominion. As I read it, God has the hope that we human beings would manage the affairs of earth with the same kind of care and that God showed in the beginning. God created humankind in God's own image. We heard this morning, male and female, God created them. God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." God saw everything that God had made, and indeed it was very good. Genesis 1:31. The poet, priests, prophets who wrote Genesis point out that God apparently made human beings master over God's other handiwork. In church, we call that principle stewardship. Old-fashioned word, stewardship. The care for the earth, the care for all the resources, care for the animals and the elements, care for the climate, to care for the household of God as though it were ours, but it isn't. The psalmist in Psalm 24, verse 1, reminds us everything really belongs to God, the Creator. Psalm 24 begins by saying, "The earth is the Lord's, and all that is in it, the world and all those who live in it." The makings of life itself were all here before human beings ever arrived. And the makings of life throughout the cosmos will be here long after human beings are gone. If we tend it well, it will last longer and we will flourish better. Now, so far, you could say we're doing okay, right? We're still here. One mark in our favor. God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, and subdue it." Well, the spread of humankind over the face of the globe, 6 or 7 billion strong, has no sign of abating. It's been an explosion of one species, our species, such that part of the ecosystem is in our hands. No part of the ecological system is untouched by human activity and human society and human values. The oceans, the atmosphere, the polar ice caps, the tropical rainforests, they all feel the impact of humans who are multiplying and filling the earth and subduing it. It is by the grace of God that we enjoy dominion. Dominion over the other creatures and systems of earth. And it's not because we are inherently sovereign creatures, nor because we have deserved a place of honor and power, nor that we have really proven ourselves worthy of such a trust. No, God simply trusted us, human beings, to get it right, to treat the whole of creation with the same goodwill that God the Creator started it, with the same kind of parental concern that God the Creator has toward the living world. Our dominion is to be exercised with responsibility because it is subject to accountability to God. Are we in tune with the things that are God's value, including the insects like those darters and small dragonflies? According to Genesis, the world and all its inhabitants are given over to human management precisely at the point where the Creator judges everything, and I quote, "was very good." And God then rested. The relationships of organisms within the respective environments, as well as the relations between the species, is entirely harmonious at the end of that story, mutually beneficial, living together in a kind of harmony. In effect, at the end of that first chapter of Genesis, God is saying, "Well done. Now let's keep it that way. Help me out here." And God took a Sabbath rest and left it in our hands. Everything up until this point had been the work of God, done by divine word, investment of energy, evolving the universe into its present form. That completion of 15 billion years of cosmological drama was now in human hands. And the question is, are we up to it? Are we up to it? According to the Bible, the blessed and sacred character of the living world and the universe that brought it all into being is now in our hands to administer and to manage. In my opinion, the fact that we are given dominion, which is free will to rule freely over the other natural resources, the other creatures of earth, is not a license to exploit nature, but rather a call for us to manage it with the utmost care for us and for future generations. Each of us is a free agent, says Genesis. We are free to act as God would act, utilizing dominion so that all may flourish. We are created in the image and likeness of God, given dominion over the rest. If our stewardship of life and all its resources is to be patterned after God's own creative design, if our behavior is to be representative of God's own desire for the well-being and the flourishing of the world, what would that entail? If we serve as the image of God in the natural world, what does that mean? First, we are told, be fruitful, even as God had been exuberantly fruitful. The profligate creativity that continues to evolve in complexity and diversity and beauty all around us. Who knew there were 800,000 kinds of insects alone? Profligate creativity, novelty, beauty. God has given birth to the whole intricate cosmos as a gift of grace, a generosity that we enjoy. I would think a spirit of gratitude is in order, wouldn't you say? Gratitude. We didn't earn this marvelous wonder of night turning into day and earth and sky, the colors, the smells, the breath, life, love. It's all a gift. It's free and clear with no strings attached from God. That grand sweep of Lake Huron, the trees around us, the animals, a gift. But gratitude is not enough. It's important, but gratitude doesn't really do anything. Feeling thankful is a first step to recognize we are recipients of unearned resources. And in all things, in every moment of life, we should be thankful. But that's just a first step. In exchange for being given God's own carte blanche, that is, exchange for the gift of life and breath and daily bread, God asks only that we be in relationship with the rest of nature, with the same sort of style and attitude as God's own. God asks that we relate to the world around us as though we were, in fact, God's own image, God's likeness, still at work in this creating order. To be sure that human beings would be successful in that relationship, God granted us dominion. That's another gift of grace. There's no strings attached. It's based on the assumption on God's part that we human beings will use our wisdom, our knowledge, our power wisely and well in order to accomplish God's own design. As I said before, God trusted us. And frankly, in that perhaps is the seed of disaster. You see, some folks think of dominion as an opportunity for exploitation. Right? That divine gift of human power over nature means for them domination. The command to fill the earth and subdue it is understood to mean by some you conquer it, you control it, you own it, you use it. To see dominion as having power over others is used then to justify taking advantage of the lesser creatures, taking advantage of the disadvantaged. It's a God-given right, you know. Clearly, the great Creator God, who is revealed in Hebrew Scriptures and further revealed in the life of Jesus Christ, who loves what God has made, does not intend dominion to play itself out with arrogance and pride and plunder. and personal profit-taking and hoarding and having and consuming everything. That's not what dominion is about. It's designed to assist us in being fruitful, not being harmful. It's to assist us, to enable us to be creative, like God is creative, productive, not destructive. I'd like us to consider redefining dominion away from that glorious having power over others, instead to being plugged in to the power of nature at its generating source, which is God. In other words, we are empowered by God to achieve God's dream for this world. We're empowered by God with dominion in order that God's will be done on earth as it is in heaven, as it was at the beginning. When we think of dominion as empowerment instead of having power over, it recognizes that we are in a mutual responsibility with the world of nature. We are in a shared relationship. In my sermon title, I refer to the relative value of animals and other creatures in God's nature. Relative value, and in that, I want you to think relations. I want to think of your relatives, right? Kindred spirits. We're colleagues with creation. We're in the family of all of creation, with God as our ultimate source. We're in it together. We're in it with the plants and the animals that will be on the churchyard in a few minutes, and the insects that we don't want around us. According to the Bible, we are drawing upon divine resources as well as drawing upon vast amounts of natural resources, fossil fuels, sunlight, water, air, not to mention the plants and animals of every kind. We are drawing on them in order to better the course